That's awesome, and actually, that's a perfect segue, Joe, because I know those are the only few books that you caught up on this week for us to get into what's new right off the rip. Not a whole lot of bullshitting today, so we've been doing that enough lately. So let's start actually with DC because we got Detective Comics 1050 out this week, and of course, obviously plenty of Batman books. My actually favorite Batman related thing that came out this week was DC versus Vampires issue 4. I've been on this since the beginning, and we also had Task Force Z issue 4, which I read the second issue, felt better about it. Haven't gone back to read the third issue yet. I still didn't feel like great after the second issue, but DC versus Vampires issue 4 is awesome. We've been waiting on seeing what's going to happen with Green Arrow and Batman as they're kind of moving in like parallel directions, but also with uncertainty surrounding them. And then the Justice League, a bomb dropped in the last issue, a major development. So it's been pretty crazy, and the fourth issue is just as awesome as the previous one, if not even better. And the fifth one promises to be even better. Otto Schmidt, I love his Green Arrow because he drew Green Arrow for a while during Rebirth, and then I forget who it was. I think it was Juan Ferreira. Maybe saying his name wrong, but he was good. But like Schmidt's my guy. Like that is his Green Arrow is my Green Arrow. He drew Dr. Fate for this issue, and oh my god, like I might even I'm not a Dr. Fate guy, but like this might be my favorite interpretation of Dr. Fate. And Joe, John Constantine is now in the mix. So I'm pants density right now. You haven't picked this up
You
yet.
fucking yell at me when I make a John Constantine reference in a book that you haven't read. Now you make one I haven't read. What the fuck?
It's totally different. Don't even try. Don't even try.
Have we just as bad as I am?
And we don't want to tell the people which book that is specifically because,
that
you're talking about. Mine is a little bit was telegraphed in the third issue, but anyways, not telegraphed, but either way, I'm going to do that on the show because you're not planning on picking this up at this stage, right?
Nope.
Okay, awesome. So that actually should be done right around Halloween-ish.
Oh,
so
nice.
It'll be perfect timing and everything. But you mentioned Detective Comics 1050, of course, came out this week. We got Action Comics 1039, Batman Catwoman Special Issue 1, which I know you're getting that actually mounted, right, in Bag End?
Oh, yeah. It's going right up here on the Wall of Fame.
But you are actually still in, of course, on Robin. Issue 10 is out this week. That was actually the last book, believe it or not, that you talked about on the show for a mainline episode, if you can believe that. Kind of weird.
Jesus, it's been a while.
Human Target issue 4, which you've stuck with, I thought was good, but I want you can do that one on the show. Of course, again, another Tom King book, but actually like this one. Deathstroke issue 5, Inc. issue 5, really enjoying this series. Aquaman, Green Arrow, Deep Target issue 4. Which I've been reading. Superman and Robin Special issue 1, Superman 78 issue 6, which I think that marks the end of the Superman and Batman vintage series. So I read the first few for the Batman one, and it was fine, but it's just I like Keaton's Batman. Don't get me wrong, but not enough to go back and read all. I
bought the first issue of each because I wanted to have those first issues. I'll wait until it's on trade, perhaps.
Well, Joe, we have access to those still. They're all archived for us.
Yeah. So
I'm curious if you're going to talk about either of those on the show. You can even do them together. All right. Well, there we go. Wonder Girl issue 7, which I fell behind on this one. I talked about how Joelle Jones, her art is freaking awesome. And it was really promising, but just the series was sputtering and just felt like it wasn't going anywhere. It's getting canceled. The 7th issue is the last issue. I don't know if I'm going to go back and read it. Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't going anywhere, Joe. Like that's the big issue.
I know the art was great.
Oh,
and it was a very promising first issue, and it's she's a great character. It just it needed to get somewhere quick. It just did.
Yeah, and it looked that's an understatement. And it looks like they're doing a little bit something with Yara Flor. I think there's some Amazon stuff they have planned, so she's not completely going away, but just not as successful as you would have wanted it to be. Peacemaker, Disturbing the Peace, issue 1. Of course, Burying the Lead. That was, for me, the one book, I have to read this coming into this week. Everything going on with the show. Have you been watching the show, actually?
No.
Oh, wow.
I haven't yet. I fully intend to.
Gotcha.
I just haven't sat down to watch it yet.
Yeah, well, at this point, you could even wait to just binge it all because I think there's 4
That's my preference with most of these things anyways, to be honest with you.
No, well, there you go. But this is by Garth Ennis. And I remember we talked about it in the solicit. I was like, I absolutely want to read this. And I feel like they like this is just going to be a one-off. It's a Black Label issue. It's a double-sized issue, and that's totally fine if it's a one-off. The way it's written, that's cool. But I would love to see Ennis do more with this character. Obviously, his history with the Punisher and what we've seen with John Cena doing with the character on the big screen. I feel like Ennis could have a lot of fun with it. He did a really good job with this first issue. Really enjoyed it. Really gives you greater context to this character's background and what he's all about. Not as goofy like this to me. I don't know if this is meant to be like the same exact, interpretation, of course, comics and whether it's movies or film, movies or TV, excuse me. You see differences with characters as much as there are a lot of similarities. But if I were to say, if they were to say, yeah, it's like absolutely in the same like universe, if you will, not somewhere else in the multiverse, then I would say this is like before Suicide Squad, absolutely before Suicide Squad. And it says a lot about that's both in terms of what the character's done and his personality too.
Gotcha.
But it was really good. If you're looking, if you were considering picking up, I highly recommend it. But let's bounce back over to Marvel. There's a lot of stuff coming out from them this week too.
Yeah, Devils. So this is some of these books, the ones I've been dying to read. Devil's Reign #3. Can't wait to read that. X-Men #7. That was one of my favorite series of 2021. Continues to kick ass. Death of Doctor Strange #5. Black Panther #3, which also is apparently issue 300.
Yeah,
series.
Yeah, and I got to read
so
that.
That's a
too.
big deal. That's a
Yeah.
big deal.
Huge.
Mary Jane and Black Cat Beyond #1. A Devil's Reign one-off or side series, Devil's Reign Winter Soldier #1, which Nick, you read?
Yeah, read and reviewed. I also reviewed Peacemaker for Geeks Worldwide, both of these. And Devil's Reign Winter Soldier #1. It looks like we're going to get some more Winter Soldier beyond Devil's Reign.
Nice.
I don't want to obviously give too much away. I was very careful about the review because that came out on Monday, with the books dropping on Wednesday. I didn't want to go and throw that out there, but now I feel comfortable saying that. You'll see as you read the issue, but it's the art combined with what's going on with Winter Soldier and Kingpin in this is very, very interesting.
Nice.
You can go and read more of the review on Geeks Worldwide. I don't want to get too bogged down in this one. I gave it an 8 out of 10. But I am excited to see if this team is going to work with Winter Soldier moving forward.
Gotcha. And then lastly, from Marvel this week, we've got friend of the show, Ben Percy, as I have proof. See, TLDR rocks. He wasn't paid to say that or write that or anything.
Right.
X Deaths of Wolverine #1. I reviewed X Lives of Wolverine #1 last week for Geeks Worldwide. It was awesome. So I can't wait to read this one. Nicholas, you suggested that people read Inferno first before reading this.
So part of why Joe wasn't able to read it was because this was one of the books that came out later. The way Marvel, I'm not going to bog people down to how things work with review copies, but Marvel's a little different than everybody. Certain things can't go out before others. Sometimes you have to wait till new comic book day to have your review go out. And with X Lives of Wolverine, we were able to get that out early. X Deaths, a little bit later, get a little later access to it and everything. I did get a chance to look at it. And yes, Joe, I read Inferno, all 4 issues, thought it was a good series and everything. And even if you haven't been paying a close attention to Krakoa, as long as you read it's Powers of X and House of X and Powers of 10, right?
Powers of 10, because the way that book works is that it's in the future by exponents of 10.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. You know what? Have you said that before? Because that just blew my mind. I
thought I did, but maybe not.
Well, anyways, so yeah, you need to have read Inferno to fully appreciate this, or at least you have to know what went on in Inferno to appreciate this. Because Ben kind of gives you a little bit of an explanation in like the first page or so, and you get an idea as it goes along, but you might feel a little lost if you haven't read Inferno. You're definitely better off reading that before. It's only 4 issues. I think one of them might have been double sized, or maybe they were like a couple that were like 32 pages, something to that effect, but really good. And it's they tie in together, but it's like kind of between X Death and X Lives, but it feels like it's I can't. I don't know how to explain it. Like there's a very different vibe to that one, to X Deaths versus X Lives. So it's gonna be a wild ride though. Regardless, remember this is all Wolverine. So like this is like the ultimate Wolverine story. So I can't I seeing what Ben's doing. it seems like it's going to be really big in scope too, much more so than we might have thought with X Lives initially.
Gotcha.
We head over to Image, and Joe, I know we did our Saga special last week with our buddy Rich Key from #Dork, and we wanted to talk about Saga. We said we were going to talk about Saga on here, and I knew the second that I said we'll have an advanced look at it and talk about it on the show, I was like, I went back and listened to it. I was like, Dad probably just jinxed us big
Yeah, you
time.
fucking son of a bitch. Because wait a second, it's not in our folder. What
Mm-hmm.
gives? And man, Image. I mean, Image has really been, as they should be, promoting the hell out of this, and they don't want anything to get out. Nothing. I mean, you want to talk about holding your, keeping your cards close to your vest, and so we're gonna
Yeah.
read this along with the rest of the, the plebs,
Yep.
on New Comic Book Day, and it sucks because I wanted to read it.
I gotta say, I'm a little worried that's gonna be the norm with them with Saga, because honestly, like, look, there are some books where they
It's
don't
going
like.
on my pull list for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But like there are some books that don't need the extra pub. Like on X Lives and X Deaths Wolverine probably only needs so much. But like when you look at like even King Spawn, they had one time where there was like a available upon request, and I was like, we've been getting King Spawn the whole time. Might have been worried about spoilers, but like when the books are rolling, maybe they don't need that extra bit of help. Saga, if there is a book that doesn't need any help,
No, God, no.
it's Saga. It's just we need to know what's coming back, and then that's it. Other than that, people don't need updates. So kind of sucks for us. I'm worried about going forward if we're going to get that early access. But guess what? If we don't, we're going to talk about it and catching up every single week because that is Joe and I's number one book every week. No questions asked, right?
No questions asked.
Every month, I should say. So maybe I'll get to weigh in on it on Geeks Worldwide because I'm trying to do something now with Comic Book of the Week. I'm trying to do a little like opinion piece there. Maybe talk about a book that I talked about on here but didn't get to write about. Did that last week with 7 Secrets issue 13. Really loved that. Gunslinger Spawn issue 4. We did get the advanced copy on this one. I've really been enjoying this series, and I've said the action drives us a lot. This is Brett Booth with Todd McFarlane writing, and I'll tell you what, Joe, best issue yet. I felt like issue 3 was kind of like it stalled a little bit. This hasn't been like a crazy fast moving in the sense of the plot, but it's been fast moving in terms of the action and the imagery and everything. This had both. Like it's still kind of like the location is pretty stationary, but the plot and all these developments, you learn more about Spawn. You learn Gunslinger Spawn, what he's got to do, what's happening to him. We're seeing the clown thrown back in the mix. We're learning a little bit about what's going on with his other personality of the Violator. There's a whole lot there. Definitely from a writing standpoint, definitely the best issue yet of Gunslinger Spawn. From an art perspective, I mean, Brett Booth's been like flawless.
He's been killing it.
He's one of the best out there. I'm so glad he's doing Spawn, but Gunslinger Spawn, I just wonder how long it's going to last because somebody's going to snatch him up, at some point because he's too good, man. For Marvel or DC to not be like, hey, here's a ton of money. Like right now, wouldn't you say? This is probably bold of me to go this far, but like Dan Mora and him right now.
That's bold. I mean, his stuff's fantastic. I mean, that's bold. I mean, Javier Fernandez is killing it on
Javier Fernandez
King
is awesome.
Spawn, and I mean, we're very lucky because there's such a glut of tremendous artists right now, and I just putting Brett Booth is in the conversation. There's no doubt about it. The artwork in that book is tremendous, but I wouldn't go like Dan Moore, Brett Booth. I would say I'd probably put him in a top 10, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, saying it's those two is bold on my part. It felt bold as I was saying it, but there, no question in the conversation. Javi Fernandez, of course, has been been awesome on King Spawn. I mean, it just gets better every issue. I mean, that's him and Sean just getting to know each other better. Yeah. And of course, we talked about that with Sean last time we had him on. Go check that out if you haven't listened to it already. Again, the interviews for those who are new to the show, because I saw someone in the chat saying they just came across us. Our interviews are audio only every time, so you can find those iTunes, Spotify. Got to make sure I get us up on Stitcher. I'm being told by our producer behind the scenes. And the other thing from Image that came out, Stray Dogs, Dog Days issue 2. Of course, Joe, you talked about that on the show a little while back. Also from Image, but I guess an Image imprint in Skybound, Redneck 33, another book you talked about a while back from Donny Cates, who, we talk about different people that we want to get on the show. Donny Cates is somebody I'd love to pick his
That'd be a
brain
fun conversation, I think, because he's out there, and I think it'd be tremendous.
Someone we need to talk to more is Kieran Gillen. We had him on for Die. We need to talk to him about Once and Future. I didn't get a chance to read this one yet. Issue 24 is out this week. What did you think?
I think we need to wrap up Once and Future.
Oh my! Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
So
tell me more.
remember how I talked about back? I think it was probably issue 12, issue 13.
He's out of nowhere.
I was starting to feel like, okay, it's kind of flattening out. It's not that I feel like Once and Future's flattening out, but when Once and Future was really cranking the early issues and just sort of into the early teens, we'd get these reveals, and it was like, oh, like it was really something else.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's expected. When you pick up a copy of Once and Future, there's, what character is it going to be this issue?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying I dislike this issue. I loved it. It was great. Dan Moore, speaking of Dan Moore's art, it is once again fucking flawless.
Mm-hmm.
But this, I mentioned jumping the shark earlier. I feel like Once and Future is starting to flirt with that, because we're now just sort of, I feel like getting stuff for the sake of getting it.
Okay.
And I would feel much better about if they wrap this like boom, like give me an end and boom. Because if it just keeps going and it's just new character after new character after new character after new character, issue after issue after issue, and we're 30, 40 issues in, and it feels like it's just going on for the sake of going on. I feel like it could wrap up, and it could be wrapped up very well. And because I don't want to be like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
So you feel like it's teetering right now?
A bit.
Okay.
Now, again, it was a great issue, and it was violent, and the action was great, but there needs to be an end point. And I think it needs to come soon.
Okay. All right. So, unlike last time you said it kind of after a few issues, you had realized like, okay, it's gotten to a point. Now, much more seasoned, in general as a reviewer, because that happens to all of us in time. And now you're more familiar with this title, even more so, because back then it was like you said, the mid-teens and everything. So now you're using your foresight. Now you're seeing like, okay, you're trying to like stop it before it becomes a problem.
Exactly.
Okay.
I just like
There
needs to be an end, and it needs to kind of wrap up.
Okay,
soon.
I like that. I like the foresight, Joe. I like this.
Yeah, because when you read it, I mean, don't get me wrong, the character that's introduced is awesome. I mean, you see it coming. You kind of see it coming a mile away, but it's the imagery is still cool, nonetheless.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I think when you read it, you'll get exactly what I mean.
Okay.
House of Slaughter #4. I mean, this series has just been fine. I can't wait for Tynan to pick up Something Is Killing the Children when it returns. I think either next month or in March. It's coming, it's coming back soon, and I can't wait. I can't wait for that. Power Rangers Universe #2.
I don't know if I'm going to stick with this. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
And the book, one of I can't wait to talk about this book on this show too. Is Dark Blood #6.
Yeah, I'm excited actually to hear you talk about this one, because every once in a while we get books where it's like, oh, I read the first issue and then you really liked it and you stick with it, and I'm like, oh, whatever, and vice versa. This was one of those. I was actually really excited going in, and then based on the synopsis and everything, you have a certain set of expectations, and I think you and I are pretty good, at least when it comes to comics, about not going like some of the guys in the DSG will get like they have these expectations, and if they're not met, certain things don't happen in shows, they get upset. We don't really do that with comics a whole hell of a lot. You and I, you don't think, right?
No, I mean we got let down a few times, that's for sure.
But that's them. That's based on what the story. Like Berserker, they led us into being what it was, and it's just like it's not delivered. And Dark Blood, it just felt like this. I thought it was one thing, and it's completely opposite. So I kind of fell off. There's so much stuff that we're reading. I mean,
we have a tendency to let things breathe a little bit. I mean,
right?
Comics are usually pretty good. Like I feel like the 3 comic rule is pretty legit. If outside of what the fuck was that book, the horror book there that just really rattled my fucking cages, and I don't know why I was fucking reading it.
I can't recall what it was. Do you remember what company it was?
Oh fuck! I'll come back to you, but like generally, like 3 books. If you haven't pulled me in by that third issue, then it's just it's a no. And sometimes we know after one, we know right off the bat, but like generally, I think we have a good tendency to let things breathe a little bit and unpack it and see give it a chance to get going.
Mm-hmm.
It was the serial killer, that weirdo fucking serial killer book.
Yeah. It's from Image. Oh,
Vinyl.
Vinyl. That's what it
That's
was.
one book where I was just like, why am I still reading this? And it was the most perplexing thing ever. But like generally 1, 2, 3 issues. Like by then, we won't because sometimes the first issue's job is to sink its teeth into you, get its
Mm-hmm.
hooks into you, and pull you in. But sometimes that's not the case. So some of these books that we read, they're just the way they're paced, the way they're told, like there's a purpose to them.
Mm-hmm.
And by usually by that third issue, okay, you got it, you're in,
Mm-hmm.
boom. So
Yeah.
you generally can't, well, sometimes you can, but like we're pretty good about that.
Yeah, and I think the 3 issue rule is fair. I definitely lean generally more towards 2 issues. Like if like the first one, if you show me like all the possibilities, you pose a couple questions, you got some art that makes sense for the story. All right, cool. I don't need to be like I don't have my socks knocked off like in the first issue. That's totally fine. That's why King of Spies. I was like, holy shit. But in the second issue, that's where it's like, all right, I need to know what's going on. I need to have some really cool shit and think like we need to really get an idea of what the hell is going on. So for me, it's more of a 2 issue rule, I would say. But you can usually like if there's
I
promise in
fucking
that
gave
first one,
Bad Cat 6 issues. I mean,
I don't know
fucking
what you
credit
feel.
to me.
That's because you
Credit to
want.
me.
Yeah. Credit to you.
Yeah.
No, we got to get William Hung on the phone. All right, let me roll through all these real quick before we get to the ComiXology books that came up from Scott Snyder that I know you read. From Dark Horse, I'm way behind on Hellboy right now, but we got Hellboy, the Silver Lantern Club issue 4, Black Hammer Reborn issue 8, and then Hellboy in the BPRD 1957 Forgotten Lives issue 1, which I believe we've gotten some other Forgotten Lives. So they're kind of jumping around with all the Hellboy stuff, of course. Dynamite, Rodney Barnes, Army of Darkness, 1979, issue 5, which you've been reading. Maybe you'll talk about that on the show at some point. Aftershock, Dark Red, Where the Road Leads. This looked kind of cool when I saw the cover for this. May check it out. Aftershock's one right now where it's like, oh, if it's got a cool cover, I'm going to give this a look because it's really been growing on me. Probably since Bunny Mask. So like Paul Tobin, like Aftershock, make sure you guys give him a little extra next time you sign him because he definitely had an impact on me. Um, IDW, we got Usagi Yojimbo, Lone Goat and Kid issue 1. I believe this is just old Usagi stories that are now in color, if I'm not mistaken. Joe, is that
Yep,
correct?
that's
Okay.
correct.
AWA, we have Telepath issue 5, which we are both caught up on until this issue. Then Vault, you're reading Lunar Room issue 3 is out this week. We Write Titans issue 2, and then End After End issue 1. Which brings us to the 2 ComiXology books that came out this week from Scott Snyder. How were they?
Man.
Yeah.
Good. Real good. And for some reason, I thought like all these books were only going to be 3 or 4 issues, right? No, they're both to be continued. So they might be 5, 6. It might be a full arc, right? And maybe I knew that, and I just fucking forgot. Like,
Well, I thought these were going to be oversized, like We Have Demons was, but it seems like not the case. But okay.
So clear number 4. I'll talk about that one first. I mean, this one I loved right out of the chute. It's funny because when it came to the number ones, I mean, I very much enjoyed Night of the Ghoul, but Clear was clearly my favorite.
That little on the nose, Joe. You got to work on that.
Right. Night of the Ghoul now is my favorite, but I'll tell you what, both are absolutely freaking stellar. So Clear is, like I said, way back when, it's one, Francis Manipal's art is outstanding. He does, the inks and the colors, and I love him as an artist. He's so unique. He's so vibrant. Absolutely love it. And it is very much a part of this story. One of the things I love about Scott Snyder's writing is his ability to come full circle. Nuggets that he puts in one issue fall by the wayside, right? So, issues 2, issues 3, especially when they come out once a month, you kind of forget them. And then when they pop back up, in a later issue. You're like, that's where that was fucking going.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, like this is something else. And so like he's a master class writer. He just really is. He weaves everything together so perfectly, and it's not always linear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some writers are brilliant writers, and they just tell a very linear story, and I love that. And sometimes Scott gets a little abstract with it, like not in a avant-garde, kind of way, but like, it's like there's some threads here. We're gonna let them dangle for a bit, but they're very important. We'll, put a pin in it, come back to it, and then when it does, everything just goes boom. And that's what the clear number 4 was. And
Okay.
tremendous story. Night of the Ghoul, I said it with the last issue, like this was like this is the issue that felt like I'm truly in a horror story, and this issue just took that to the next level. It's so good. It's all coming together. This is something that's a little bit more linear. There are some flashbacks and stuff, but it's all coming together, and he's telling 2 completely different stories. Both are wild in their own right, and if go get a ComiXology account, it's $5 a month. You can read these. I mean, the physical copies will be coming out soon, so if you don't want to do that, but man, oh man, ComiXology is unlimited, has some great stuff. All of Snyder's newest stuff, the Jeff Lemire Snow Angel stuff. I mean, Zdarsky's All Night. I mean, there's some really great things on there.
Yeah, and we obviously talked to Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo a while back about those two. And in addition to We Have Demons, which is the one that Greg is drawing, but we will talk about each of these 3 titles before their single issue releases come. So that's going to be in March, I think. I don't know if it's going to be one each week. We'll see, but we'll be doing spoiler free with all that as well. Just because we're really being careful, because now the hard copies are on sale. But absolutely, go get the ComiXology app if you haven't already. Joe and I absolutely love it, and there's stuff you can catch up on too. Between that and Hoopla, and then picking up single issues, like you're all set as a comic book reader.
Yeah.
You're going to get everything that you need. But that is it for us for what's new this week. I'm ready for you to talk about Night of the Ghoul, because I need to read that one. That first issue was my second favorite of the 3 that we got. I want to read Clear. Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to it, but I really want to read more Night of the Ghoul.